Now, I know My Hero is in its epilogue phase and about to wrap up. I have been rereading some of the war, and there's a lot of amazing battles in this war that I don't think are talked about enough. There are so many characters in this amazing series that I love, and they got so many moments to shine, but probably my favorite fight in the entire series of My Hero Academia is All Might versus All for One Round 2. Now, I have loved All Might since the inception of My Hero Academia. I don't think this series would be anything without All Might, and the way he inspires and motivates the youth is nothing short of miraculous. I do not know how Horikoshi was able to weave such an amazing character like All Might and have the emotional beats that he has had throughout the series. And Horikoshi has taken a lot of inspiration from American comic books such as DC and Marvel when it comes to crafting this narrative as well as the heroes he portrays. And growing up, my favorite superhero of all time is Batman. I've watched Batman since I was a kid, started with the animated series, and Kevin Conroy is my Batman. He is the most amazing actor I've ever seen play the role, and seeing Horikoshi pay homage to Batman in his own manga is nothing short of amazing. So after All Might lost One for All, I thought that All Might's journey in the series would be done and he would just be a mentor to Deku and maybe die during this war, but I had no idea that he would actually fight and take on All for One more time. So the rematch of All Might versus All for One took place in chapter 386, then we skipped 10 chapters to 396, and then from 396 to 403 is the entire fight of All Might versus One for All. And when I saw chapter 386 and I saw that final page with All Might saying, "I am here," I lost my shit. I had no idea what he was going to do, but then seeing in chapter 396 when he dons his mech suit, I instantly thought of Batman putting on the Bane suit, and I got chills. The suit also just looks like a Batman suit. It is black and gold, and he's got a cape. It just looks so cool. So what I love the most about Batman is he has no superpowers, but he relies on his technology and his brain to beat any foe that comes his way. And that was lacking in My Hero because it was always based on your quirk and being able to have some kind of power that let you contend with your opponent. But this is amazing writing on Horikoshi's part to have All Might, who was the symbol of peace and the symbol of strength, be reduced to nothing but a man, but still show that he is still a hero through and through. And when he puts on that suit, I just put so many parallels between him and Batman. And All Might is being very strategic with this fight, and what I love the most is that he's using everyone's power from Class 1A. He has done a ton of research, very reminiscent of Deku when he didn't have a quirk, when Deku used to write down notes about heroes in his journal. All Might seemed to take a page from his student Deku, as well as pages from the rest of Class 1A. I can talk about this point for the whole video if I wanted to, but I think it's amazing that the #1 hero in the entire world paid attention to all of his pupils and utilized what they have taught him in his battle against All for One. Like his first move that he is using to deflect All for One's attack is called Red, and it's a giant shield, reminiscent of Red Riot. And then All Might uses Deku's Black Whip plus Charge Bolt from Kaminari to render All for One immobile for a little bit, and All Might even uses Sugar Man's ability, which I didn't even think you could use, but he buffs up his leg and starts using Deku's shoot style. And I'm getting chills just reading these pages and just seeing that the world's best hero can still learn from those around him. And it's very strange to see, because when we see someone in All Might's position who has this much level of success and is the best at their profession, they really don't take advice from those below them because they have a sense of arrogance and self-entitlement. And this is why I love All Might so much. Even though he is the best, even though he has years of experience above these kids he is training, he is still not above himself to learn and grow and continue to change. Because of his open-mindedness, he is able to compete with All for One and actually have a plan to damage All for One enough so he has to keep regenerating and thus run out of time. And what really impresses me about this fight is the sheer amount of techniques All Might has in his arsenal. We see him use Tokiyami's Dark Shadow, Ashido's Super Acid, Ingenium's Thrusters, and Uraraka's Gravity Powers. And honestly, it's like when Batman took on the entire Justice League and had contingency plans for each and every one of them. Like, All Might is that prepared for All for One. And the callbacks in this fight are very reminiscent reminiscent of like a Kakashi versus Obito type fight. All Might is thrown through town, which is reminiscent of the first chapter of My Hero when we see the spread of the entire town. All Might is flung through that entire page spread, and he ends up on the rooftop where he meets Midoriya for the first time and talks to him about his injuries he received from All For One. And then we see one of my favorite panels in this entire fight is when All Might starts laughing like the Joker and then just says how good it feels to help everybody with the biggest smile on his face. And that line basically encapsulates All Might's entire character. What a joy it is to serve others has always been what All Might has lived for and what he has always strived to be. And I cannot get enough of this fight. Even when All Might seems cornered by All For One, it is all part of his plan. All For One comes out from some building and basically snaps All Might in half with a strike. But All Might was predicting this and used Tailman's tail quirk to block All For One's fatal hit. And for All Might's most powerful attack yet, he takes inspiration from Aoyama. And Aoyama's had a pretty tough arc here as he's gone from being exposed as All For One's spy and now rectifying the wrongs he's made and trying to fight for the greater good. And All Might took notice of that and had his last attack in honor of Aoyama. And it's also ironic because All For One gave Aoyama his twinkling ability. And now All Might is using that very ability to take down All For One and speed up his regeneration so he can't go after Deku or anyone else. I think the callbacks in this fight are just second to none. It is incredible the amount of detail and thought Horikoshi put into All Might's final stand against All For One. And this isn't easy by any means. All Might is still saying that he hopes that All For One will vanish before the joy stops numbing the pain he is feeling. All Might is pushing himself to the very limit for this fight and for the fate of the world. He's actually even inspiring those around him to stand up and fight, such as Stain. Stain sees All Might fighting and flies in like the Green Goblin from Spider-Man 3 and tries his best to help out his master. He gave his all for All Might, the man who showed him what being a hero actually meant, and then perished at the hands of All For One. All Might tries to rush in to save Stain, but All For One is too quick and shoots a beam at All Might and basically destroys his entire mech suit. Honestly, I don't know how All Might got up from that. He is literally battered and bruised with so many broken bones and injuries. The vestige of Shimura appears and says, "Toshinari, we aren't done. You can do this." And he still finds the will to get up and still fight even without a mech suit. And in addition to that, when All For One is bringing All Might to Deku, All Might tries to sacrifice himself and blow himself up along with All For One, but All For One predicted that was going to happen. But even so, All Might had the resolve to kill himself to take out All For One. Honestly, cannot stop talking about this fight enough. I think it is one of the best fights, if not the best fight in the entire manga of My Hero, and I cannot wait for them to animate this, and I hope Studio Bones does not drop the ball and shows how gruesome this fight actually is. Also, the artwork that Horikoshi did for this is amazing. I think that the manga is leagues above the anime in terms of quality and artistic direction, and I wish that the anime could capture some of this, especially for this final part of the series. But that's all I have to talk about today, guys. What did you think of the All Might versus All For One part 2? Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps out a lot, and I will see you guys later. Peace.